Greetings, comrades, and welcome to How the Red Was Won, a podcast about organizing in the South, Texas fascism, and how to fight back. I'm your host, Jen Big Nasty, and I'd like to just start off with a shout out to my Patreon supporters. The financial support that you have given me has allowed me to update my equipment. I hope it sounds good, and I promise I will eventually learn how to edit better than I have been. But we don't need to edit today because I have a very special guest. She is a Dutch content creator, and we've actually been mutuals on Twitter for several years, and TikTok for, I guess, about as long as I've been on TikTok, which is probably close to 2 years. So that I've known her from that, and I'm very excited to learn about her experiences as a Dutch communist and what that's like, and she's going to tell us a little bit about Dutch colonial history today. So welcome, Leanne. Hello.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Leanne. I'm a Marxist-Leninist from the Netherlands. People can find me on all major social media platforms under the tag @Leanenist. I will say, mostly on Twitter and TikTok, I do some things in English, but most of the other platforms are in Dutch. But I hope that's okay for your listeners. I plan on doing a little bit more with content creation and just social media in the near future. So I hope I can show you some of that sometime soon. What else can I say? I'm a member of the Dutch Socialist Party, the SP. We will try to run for the city council again in November. And the city where I live in a small city nearby Amsterdam, Hilversum. Only like 120,000 people live here. It's not that big in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Nice. Are you gonna be the one that's running for office, or somebody in the party?
It's the party itself will run, and there will be several people in the list. I don't know on what position of the list I will be on yet. It's in November, so it's in a little less than a year.
That's so exciting. Very cool. Well, we'll definitely keep an eye on that, and I will make sure I put the links to find you in the show notes. I also think Leanenist is such a clever, fun name. I love it.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Well, if you're ready, we can just kind of dive right into it. We were going to start with just some background and information about the history of Dutch colonialism. If you want to just jump right in, we can do that.
Sure. So a lot of people, when they think about the Netherlands, they often think we are some kind of liberal, progressive, fun country where everything is all fine and dandy. But we actually did have a colonial empire. It lasted roughly from the 17th century. I think 1602 is when the first colony was founded, up until as recent as 1975. That's 50 years ago. In the grand scheme of history, that's yesterday. So the timing of this podcast is actually quite interesting because on the 25th, it's the 23rd when we're recording, it will be the 50-year independence for Suriname, our South American colony.
Wow.
It's also why I want to talk about that one a bit more today. But people mostly, when they know about Dutch colonial history, they often know about South Africa. Mm-hmm. Afrikaans is very similar to Dutch. As a language itself, the word apartheid is a Dutch word. Not just the meaning itself, but in other contexts, it still is just a regular word. Huh. We also had other colonies, the Dutch East Indies, or Indonesia as it's known today. People might also know about Suriname, which is near Venezuela. It's in South America, which is an important one that we will talk about today. We also had New Guinea, Sri Lanka, Taiwan was a Dutch colony actually, and some parts of India and Brazil as well, and even some various Caribbean islands that we still hold to this day. It's really we say the empire is over, but it actually isn't. It's very similar to how the US holds Puerto Rico and Guam. Mm-hmm. We still have our own empires.
Wow, I was unaware of that.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Suriname. Can you start off talking about that? Because I don't know anything about the history of this place.
Yeah, definitely. So when the Dutch started their colonies, they actually formed two companies, which are some I would say, are the first multinationals. There were the WIC, the West Indies Company, and the VOC, the East Indies Company. The WIC dealt with the Americas, so to say, and the VOC with South Africa and the Indies. The WIC, well, let's take a small step back. When the Dutch were actually some of the first settlers in the US, many of the pilgrims that are, I don't know, the quote unquote celebrated during Thanksgiving.
That's why this week is perfect. This is Thanksgiving week here. We definitely
Dutch
hear about. Oh, I'm sorry. We definitely hear about like the Pennsylvania Dutch, right? Like that's definitely a thing that people still refer to themselves as.
Yeah, they are actually. That was actually, I think, it's based on German. I'm not sure. I think that's probably a mistranslation from Deutsch, which
interesting.
But the Amish were very typical to the Pilgrims, at least. And yeah, those were Dutch. But yeah, the New Netherlands, as they called it, it mostly had New Amsterdam as its hub, which is now known as New York. But during the Second Anglo-Dutch War, so war with the English, there was a war and the English took it. New York at the time, or New Amsterdam, was mostly actually more of a commercial colony and a strategic Atlantic port, and not as much of a settler colony. Although there were, of course, still settlers there, it was not really the full intention, even of the people who lived there, because that's a sort of funny story. It's still colonialism, but when the English invaded, the Dutch governor, Peter Stuyvesant, he actually wanted to fight the English back, but a lot of the residents were just merchants, and they just said, like, no, we have nothing to fight with. So I just surrendered without anything being fired.
Interesting.
Yeah. You can still see a lot of the Dutch, even though it's now called New York and not New Amsterdam, a lot of the boroughs, I think they're called in New York, they still have Dutch names. So Haarlem comes from the Dutch city of Haarlem, Brooklyn from Breukelen, Staten Island is Staten, which is the Dutch name for states. Vlietings is Vlissings, and the Bronx is Bronx. So that's all, they are still Dutch names.
I did not know that. That's very interesting, at least. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. But during this war with the English, when the English took nowadays New York, the Dutch took Suriname, which was then part of a bigger British Guyana, which I think you do know, which is east of Venezuela. That used to be bigger, but the Dutch took a large chunk of it. And they actually wanted to keep this more than New York or New Amsterdam. Because from the Dutch perspective, the early capitalists that we are, Suriname was way more economically valuable because it had a lot of fertile land. And New Amsterdam was a bit of a swamp back in the day. It wasn't that much to do with, but it was a strategic important point. So yeah, there's a Dutch myth, so to say, that we traded Suriname for New Amsterdam. That's not exactly the case. It's just a wartime conquest. But yeah, that's kind of how we got Suriname as a colony. And yeah, we kept it mostly for sugar. A lot of the plantations there were for sugar. That's one of the main resources that the Dutch were after.
Was that the main reason for the colonialism in general? Looking for sugar and like spices the way the British were?
Sort of. The first and foremost, it was for trade monopolies. That's what the Dutch were really after. But of course, the colonies had resources. Yeah, so for Suriname it was sugar. For Indonesia or the Dutch Indies, West Indies, what you want to call it, it was pepper and nutmeg. Those were the main ones. But And we also had South Africa for slaves. The slave trade was a very large part of the Dutch colonial history. It was central to it, basically.
Mm-hmm. Did they bring them back to Holland?
Not many. Most were, if there were Dutch slave owners who lived in the Netherlands, they often had their slaves overseas. And then they had someone else to oversee them. But there weren't many that were in the Netherlands. But after the independence of Suriname, the Surinamese citizens got kind of a choice if they wanted to have a Dutch passport or keep their Dutch passports or get their Surinamese passport. But as Parenti would say, they were overexploited, not underdeveloped.
Right.
There wasn't much to do in Suriname, so a lot of Surinamese people came to the Netherlands in '75, which is the largest black population that we have today in the country.
Interesting. So they colonized and they enslaved the people, but they kept them there locally for the most part, making them work on
our
these
plantations. But the Netherlands itself is not that big. We're similar in climate to Canada, sort of, a bit warmer sometimes. So there's not much use for slaves here in that sense. And for the industrial parts, the Dutch proletariat itself was already exploited. So I don't think there was a real need for slaves in the Netherlands itself back then. Yeah, it was mostly in the colonies, and the colonies were very harsh. The people might forget how harsh colonialism is sometimes. One of the reasons why South Africa was so big and it took so many slaves is because so many slaves died in plantations during working. And they had to upkeep the workflow. They just had to import slaves one after another.
Yeah. That's tough.
Yeah. I even found one small quote from Ho Chi Minh, who talked about the Dutch. He said, they have built their wealth on the backs of the people they enslaved and called it a civilization.
Ho Chi Minh had so many good little quotes like that. Yeah, he really saw the world for what it was in so many ways at his time.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a lot of European colonialism is similar in a lot of ways, right? Are there any big differences between the way the Dutch did their colonialism and the way that like the British or the French were doing it at the time?
Yeah, I would say that the Dutch colonialism was not per se motivated by civilization or religion, like the Spanish or the English or the French often framed that colonialism. Of course, there was racial supremacy, of course, but they were mostly purely driven by capital extraction. I think Lenin would call them like an early prototype of monopoly capital. I think if you can see the British Empire as like the world's first biggest landlords, and then the Dutch Empire was more of the first biggest corporate CEO.
Okay,
So they
that
really
makes sense.
had the WIC and the VOC. They were really the ones, although they served the Dutch Empire and the Dutch monarchy, they were the ones actually in control. It was very centralized and bureaucratic around them.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was gonna skip ahead because we're kind of already covering it. You mentioned when we were like chatting before this that in a lot of ways the Netherlands kind of like invented capitalism.
Yeah.
Or like were the early purveyors of that system. Can you explain like what you mean by that and like what that development looked like?
Yeah, it's a bit of a radical thing because, of course, it's not just one country or one thing that develops an entire system. But they created I talk about they like I'm not Dutch myself.
But you weren't doing it.
No, I wasn't around. No. They created several of the core mechanics that are still really prevalent among the modern global capitalism. In the 17th century, the Dutch were actively designing certain financial architectures the VOC. I joked, but it actually is kind of true. They were the first multinational. A lot of corporations were national until the Dutch companies colonized. They had a transferable share system. So the first stock market is also in Amsterdam.
Oh.
There was shareholder voting is also a thing that we invented. So you also have that to thank us for. So a lot of and insurance instruments. A lot of that was built by the Dutch or invented by the Dutch, which are still systems that are definitely all around capitalism as we know it.
Wow. You said 17th century, so 1600s. Yeah, this is like
sorry.
before the British were doing this, right? Like really, really ahead of your time there.
Yeah.
Did y'all come from feudalism?
Yes.
Developed into capitalism.
Yeah. We were in the feudal system. We were part of the Holy Roman Empire. I think you might know about that. Mostly under Austrian rule, actually. I know that the Austrians and the Germans sometimes fought wars to control the Netherlands. The Spanish also controlled us for a brief moment. But yeah, we were under a feudal system back then. But yeah, we quickly developed cities, and from cities we developed, because we are all pretty much underwater for a lot of the country. We developed a navy quite quickly. A lot of the cities that we built were seaports, and I think it kind of steamrolled from there to go into to colonialism.
That's easy, just to jump on the boat and head out then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about the role of Dutch communists in decolonization, right? So we've talked about colonization, but let's talk about the people freeing themselves essentially. So after these like centuries of the empire expanding and growing, and y'all were on like almost every continent, what did it look like? What did decolonization look like from the point of obviously the colonized people that were able to like throw off these chains, but also what the movement looked like back home from the left pushing to end this system?
Yeah, I think the most important decolonial movement came from Suriname. And the most important person in that, I think, was Anton de Kom. Anton de Kom is a black Surinamese communist. He was born from slaves, and he was a communist, an anti-colonial writer, and a resistance fighter. He was actually a very smart kid, and he was then allowed to go to school, to the highest possible thing you could reach back in the day, which was for us like secondary school. Because he was still in the colonies, and he started writing because he noticed that a lot of the reading and writing, of course he read some socialist literature as well. You can definitely see that in his earlier work as well, but he really started writing because he saw that the books about Suriname and about the colonies were all from the Dutch perspective. And he really wrote the first Wekker van Suriname, We Slaves of Suriname, was the first book about Suriname from the point of the oppressed people. And he wrote that the history of Suriname is a history of centuries of oppression, exploitation, and humiliation of an entire people. He wrote about the Dutch suppressing uprisings, about how they stole land, how the Dutch maintained what we now would describe as an apartheid system with race laws. It all shaped modern racial inequality, and the Com also linked plantations and their economies to capitalist accumulation. So it was also, even in what is seen as more of a historical work, his Marxist analysis was already in there, and he became a full communist later on. Let me get to my notes for this. He wait, I lost something. One moment. Yeah, he was a communist. He became a communist, and he was surveilled because of that as well. It was described that it was not that subtle, that the Dutch state was surveilling him. He would have like lectures or speaking to groups of people, and there were some people like obvious, just way too expensive looking suits in the back, just keeping an eye on him. They wanted to scare him. But it didn't stop him. He kept writing and also explaining to people how they were enslaved, what that meant for people. He also united a lot of people, because Suriname is a black colony mostly, but it also has a large portion of enslaved people from India and from China. Because they were mostly taken there on lies. They were actually sold a lie of a 5-year work contract, but often kept there indefinitely. And he united them as saying like, no, we are one oppressed people. It's not. He was not just a black nationalist. He actually saw through that and saw that there was actually a class analysis in there already.
That's very cool.
He knew it wasn't just him or just the people that looked like him. It was all of the people.
And so this is just like 50 years ago or so that he was writing, right?
No, Anton de Kom, he this was in the early 1900s.
Okay.
I have to look when this was written. He was actually when the Nazis invaded the Netherlands. He went to the Netherlands to join the resistance there.
Oh, wow.
Which was extra dangerous because he was already a communist, which just was one of the 1% most surveilled people in the resistance. And he was also black, so he couldn't really do things low-key. He would always stand out in the crowd.
Yeah.
So he was arrested by the Nazis and unfortunately killed in 1944.
He died in a concentration camp?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So he never got to see his people liberated?
No.
No. Wow.
Yeah, he got arrested in 44. He died in 45. He died only like a month before liberation as well, which was even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But his work carried on, and I
assume
that people picked up where he left off then.
Yeah,
and continued the movement. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's very inspirational. There's also one other person I want to talk about, Henk Sneevliet. He was a white Dutch worker, so Anton de Kom was from the colonies, but there was also within the empire itself, as I think it was Castro, like the belly of the beast, fighting against the system. Henk Sneevliet, he really shows the possibility of breaking with your own empire and imperial bourgeoisie and joining the oppressed. He started his career as a union organizer in the Dutch East Indies, so what is now known as Indonesia. But even back then, he was sent there as the union organizer. But from what he saw around himself, he got radicalized, right? Because it was like a brutal hierarchy, the colonial rule, that radicalized him. So instead of like really joining the state apparatus, he started fighting it. He joined with a lot of Indonesian workers as well, and he started an organization with them, which later evolved into the PKI, which is the Party of Communists in Indonesia. So that's the first communist party that is founded by a different. The first communist party was founded outside of the Soviet Union, because the Soviet Union really did a lot of. They invited people to the Soviet Union to educate them, to help them form parties. Sneevliet helped people in Indonesia to found the party right there. So that's very interesting. And the Dutch expelled him because of that. They said he was inciting natives against white authority. That's just an actual quote.
Wow.
I mean, they weren't wrong. They just forgot to attach the GigaChat image.
That's right. They expelled him from Indonesia.
Yeah.
They sent him back. Okay.
Yeah, they sent him back to the Netherlands. But then he joined the Comintern, so he left the Netherlands again.
Nice.
But the Comintern actually took him to China. I think this is the coolest part about him. Of course, you know me. I have a big China bias. I like China a lot. Although modern China, I have some critiques, as we all do, as we all should.
Have you been? Have you visited China?
Yes, I have. I'm probably going again in summer next year.
That's exciting. Are you going as part of the party that you're a member of, or just like on your own?
No, probably just on my own. The last time I went was also just to visit a friend that I know who lives in China. The next time I'm going with Dutch friends, and we really just want to see the bigger cities. But he's also a communist, so we will, of course, visit the different sites.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. But from 1921 to 23, he Sneevliet under the codename Maring. He was the subject. He was the representative and he went to the Chinese Revolutionary movement, and his influence was actually very, very important here. This is why I'm quite a big fan of him. He personally met with two of the founding members of the Communist Party of China, and he personally met and influenced Mao when Mao was still like rising in the movement. He wasn't a very big deal even back then yet. And then he met Sneevliet, so he was there before Mao was cool, you could say.
It's such a hipster thing. I knew Mao before he was cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
Mao also later remarked that Sneevliet was one of the few foreign communists who treated the Chinese revolutionaries as equals and not just as pupils. Mm-hmm. That's very important because, you know, sadly a lot of Western, especially European communists at the time were still quite chauvinistic. Especially the French. It's always the French.
It's always the French.
It's always the French.
I mean, and we still have these problems with Western communists being extremely chauvinistic, and in a lot of ways, not just like borderline white supremacy in some ways, but you see a lot of like male chauvinism, and that shows itself as like not having a lot of women in prominent places in the movement, and then this weird like transphobia and anti-queer stuff that kind of pops up in some left spaces is
I've lived in the UK for a while, and back there you have, of course, I think it's famously the British communists that are not very fond of trans people.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing to the movement, but you know, we got to struggle through all this stuff, right?
Yeah, But to go back to Sneevliet, there's just two more things that I wanted to say about him. In the 30s, so the 1930s, I would like to preface that to say how forward that was. He went back to the Netherlands, and he became a politician, and he was elected. And he then already demanded Suriname's independence. He exposed, like, in the House of Commons, he exposed, like, plantation atrocities that were happening. He had speeches about how Paramaribo it's the capital of Suriname, how there were organizations that are already fighting and asking for their liberation. And he was kind of quoting them. He was being we say it in Dutch, spraakwijs. He was the platform for them in the empire itself. And he argued that they were just oppressed nations and not part of the empire. They weren't Dutch. They were just oppressed. And then, sadly, similar to Anton de Kom, during the Nazi occupation, he was arrested. But he actually helped form part of the Dutch communist resistance. The Marx-Lenin-Luxemburg Front was one of the only resistance groups that still also had, of course, anti-fascism in its resistance, but still anti-colonialism in their messages as well. So even during the Dutch occupation, they were talking about the colonies that the Dutch was still occupying. And he was executed in 1942, but There are witness reports that he rallied some other socialists together because they were in mass put against the wall, and he convinced the German guards that they could have their final words, and that they all together sang the Internationale as their final words before they were shot.
That's kind of beautiful. Yeah,
it's beautiful.
That is.
Yeah.
Wow. Your notes also mentioned the CPN, the Communist Party of the Netherlands. Did you want to talk a little bit about the founding of that? And you also have an end date for that party.
So I can go to that right away. It's a sad end. The CPN doesn't exist anymore. There is a fringe group, the NCPN. I was part of them, but they're very small. They're only in a few cities. They see themselves as a legacy. But the CPN merged with a lot of other more radical-ish left groups and parties together to form. Sadly, it hurts me to say it, to form the Green Social Democratic Party.
Oh no!
It's sad.
That's what happened in 91?
Yes, that's what happened in 91, because the Soviet Union fell. That's what they kind of saw as an endpoint. And then together with the Pacifist Party and two Christian socialist parties, those four parties formed a Green Left, which is now the larger Social Democratic Party. And I mean modern Social Democratic, so not really that left wing anymore.
Not that social, not that democratic. So you're a member of the Dutch Socialist Party, though. Is that an ML party?
It's a democratic socialist. It's not the best. We had some splits with. There were some splits with communists in the past, in the very recent past as well. But It's the most left wing that there is in my city, and it's still for American standards it would be very left wing. But it's far from a perfect party. I haven't been part of this party for a long time. I was with the Together Party before this, Bijeen. They are an intersectional socialist party, but they pretty much ceased to exist a few years ago. We're just too much infighting, too little members.
Same story everywhere, right?
Same story everywhere. Yeah. So I just joined the most left wing that was still around, and I'll see what I can do from here.
I think that's so important, though, and we have very similar problems here, where it's very fractured, right? We have a bunch of smaller parties that aren't perfect, and are doing good work locally, but there's always internal struggle. Yeah. But like what I tell people, like if there was a perfect party, if we had a vanguard, then we would be doing the thing. So, we're not there yet. Y'all aren't quite there yet, but we're all struggling within and doing, join the best group you can and work within that is what I tell people.
It's also that I moved cities not too long ago. I live here for a year and a half, nearly 2 years now. And I didn't really know this city all that well. So I would rather join a not perfect party, but then I can actually still go and do things, how fractured they might be, than just sit around and wait for a better party to start existing.
Exactly.
Or find something myself in the city that I just moved to, where I don't know what things are.
Just making it harder.
Yeah.
I think that segues well into modern day politics, but if there was anything else about colonial history that we missed that you wanted to talk about, let's do that now, and then we can jump into like present day.
Yeah, I just briefly want to talk about a few things about the CPN still, when they were still around. Because a lot of back in the day, a lot of liberals, conservatives, even the Social Democrats, they supported or defended the colonial system. But the CPN was the first one to really oppose it. It just really shows how the communists are always Yeah, even in the 1910s and 1920s, as early as that, they were against that, and that communism should be tied into not anything chauvinistic, but really working for all people, all oppressed people. The Dutch social democratic people really still supported keeping the colonies and just not exploiting them as much anymore.
Just be a little nicer.
Yeah, just whip them less harshly. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
People really want to keep their treats, you know.
Yeah, but even after World War II, globally, so also in the Netherlands, the communist movements were respected a lot more. So the CPN got quite a lot of votes in the House of Commons and a lot of seats. So they had actual representation. There was some representation before World War II. I think 1945 is also very important, not just for the end of World War II itself, but also when Indonesia declared its own independence. And then the Netherlands responded by sending over 200,000 troops.
Oh my God.
To crush the Indonesian Revolution. They had operations which they euphemistically call police actions. It really involved like the most brutal things, like mass killings, torture centers, concentration camps, scorched earth campaigns. I think a lot of people know about the book Jakarta Methods. Jakarta is a city in Indonesia. There's a reason why that is the title of that book. That's the Dutch.
Right.
Yeah. But the CPN from the House of Commons was the only party that opposed this imperialist war. They were the only organized anti-war movement and party to call for an end to this. They always voted against everything that was going on. They supported Indonesian socialists from the state subsidies that they got as a party. They supported trade unions and anti-colonial unions within work to start boycott movements and strikes to make the occupation harder. They exposed Dutch torture techniques. So this anti-war activism was a big thing for the CPN before and after World War II. Even when it was unpopular, it didn't win them any votes because all the other parties were in favor of the occupations. But even then, the CPN still was like, no, we are principled. Yeah, I think that's very important. That's a very important message that we can take to this day.
Yeah, and learn from how important that is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned that you wanted to talk about some recent elections that happened. Let's jump into that.
Yes. So last month we had the elections. Before the elections before this, the far right Freedom Party was the largest one. People might know Geert Wilders from that funny Dutch tweets that people like to mock. We have an insidious problem. We have a serious problem.
Oh no.
He is the far right Islamophobic party leader. Okay. The recent elections, he's the shared first place. So you might know that the Netherlands has a party system where we have a House of Commons with 150 seats. And every so many votes, you can get a seat. And he was the largest in the election before, but now he's the shared first place with the Democratic, Liberal Democratic Party. Let's just call them that. Very inspired by Obama in this campaign, also in policy. This country just leans very right in the broadest sense of the word. So even if I include the aforementioned social democratic left, the left-wing parties only won 29 out of those 150 seats.
Oh no!
So that's not much. The SP, the party that I'm part of, went from 5 to 3 seats.
Oh no!
So we also reduced in size. we have this almost mythology around us in the Netherlands that we are portrayed as such a left-wing progressive paradise, but looking into it, we are. It just mirrors the United States in a lot of ways. Like I mentioned, the far-right party, the Freedom Party, Islamophobia, anti-immigration policies, racial panic, white replacement is a thing that they like to claim.
Oh, no.
Even the moderate parties, there's the Christian Democrats, that are very Biden-esque, I would say. They not even that long ago, I think it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they openly glorified the VOC, that East India Company colonial movement. They call it being pragmatic and innovative, and we need to return to that mindset.
They want to make the Netherlands great again, essentially.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah, and the colonial era is in history books. We really, of course, always try to change that. In history books, it's still called the Golden Age. That's how it's taught to people. Yeah.
Oh my God.
As something that's very positive, as something that's very good that happened in our history, but it's anything but. It just shows that the colonial ideas just never really disappeared, but they just mutated and got a different label, and it's still the same ideas.
Yeah. And so it's still actively being taught as, not even as like a necessary evil, but as like a good thing, a way that made the country prosperous and brought all these resources.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's rough.
And I think the relationship that the Netherlands now has to the US, I like to say that, we leftists, we like to say that every accusation is actually a confession. And Western liberals, Dutch liberals, we often like to describe countries as Belarus, as vassal states from Russia. But I think that actually perfectly describes the relationship from the Netherlands to the US. We often say we hate the US or we hate Trump, but we bend the knee to every demand. When Trump said that NATO countries need to spend more in the recent elections, almost every single party had that in their program.
Wow.
Almost no exception. There were two small parties that had the exception, with the SP being one of them. But all of them were just like, we are full on NATO, we should spend more. The Dutch also, we have a lot of arms factories here. Among them, we make the F-35 airplanes, which were used in Israel, by Israel, in the bombing of Palestine. They were also used in the dismantling of Yugoslavia, allegedly also in Iraq. That's still classified, but probably.
Wow. I just looked up because I wasn't sure. There are U.S. military bases in the Netherlands.
Yeah, we even we still hold some of the nukes for the U.S.
Oh, well, isn't that nice?
Isn't that nice? Yeah, they were specifically picked the Netherlands for this, not just back in the Cold War era, not just West Germany, but also the Netherlands, because that's still, I think it was 7 minutes away from reaching Berlin.
That's what it just said when it said it's a 10-minute drive from Germany. Yeah. So, they want to keep them close, and they're still active today. Wow.
Yeah. So, the Dutch, we once had like our own empire, but now we're just part of a different empire, but still enacting the same imperialist policies pretty much. Like I said, forms changed, but practice didn't really.
Right. Exactly that. And you're members of the EU and of NATO, as you mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, one of the founding members of both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Yeah. Especially considering the location. Actively shipping arms to Ukraine as well.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Mostly we're helping with drones.
Oh, okay.
There was actually not that long ago, I think earlier this week, I think it was either this week or last week, there was a huge arms showcase in Rotterdam. where probably a lot of NATO personnel was. It was very classified. We have a very amazing Dutch reporter from the left. He's called Left Laser. He always tries to go there and at least get something out of the people who are standing around. Maybe someone just says a little bit too much than they should be saying. But they were all very secretive or even got aggressive towards him. Just for simply just asking questions like, why are you here? What are you doing? What's in your suitcase?
What's in your... I love that. Yeah. Like what a reporter should be doing.
Yeah.
Right?
And he basically got attacked for that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have... I had something in my head and I just lost it.
About NATO and the EU, you started with that?
Yeah, I don't remember specifically what it was. But yeah, anything else? Okay, so yeah, modern day politics, the far-right Freedom Party is still the largest, shared with that Liberal Party. And that's, as of the recent elections, who's still the majority in charge.
Yeah. So the Dutch system works that you need to have a majority to form a government of 76 or larger, because then you have more than half. The House of Commons is 150 seats. I think both of them have 26 of the seats. So they need 3 or maybe 4 parties, depending on who wants to collaborate with who, to form a government. It's most likely going to be the Liberal Democratic Party, the sort of how do I describe the VVD? Almost like very, very small government Republican kind of party, and the Christian Democratic Party. That's also a very large one that I just described as glorifying the VOC.
Right.
Those 3 are probably going to be in the next government, and then it's either the Social Democrats or another fringe far-right one that's also very hard on immigration, but just not as hard as the Freedom Party is.
Yeah. That's brutal.
It's those 3 with either one of those other parties, probably.
You know, I think that the reason Americans think that y'all are this, like, bastion of progress, or... First of all, we are not taught anything about anybody.
No, of course. We look small in the grand scheme of things when you look on the map. The VVD that I just mentioned as the small government Republican, their previous party leader, Mark Rutte, is now the Secretary General of NATO. That just goes to show how
integrated that is.
How intertwined everything is. Yeah.
I think Americans just think that y'all are progressive because Americans like to go to Amsterdam and do drugs. And they think that... Yeah.
The weed
like
cafes,
freedom.
The rainbow crosswalks, bicycles. That's the picture we try to sell.
Right. And I think it works, at least to a Western audience, very much so.
It's just very carefully curated propaganda.
Propaganda works.
Yeah.
So what is the current fight on the ground for y'all? For your party, or just, like, to shake off these remnants of colonialism. What is the big issue, I guess, that y'all are working to rectify?
Yeah. One of the bigger issues in the Netherlands that we have right now, we have a large housing crisis, which is part of a larger economical crisis that we're sort of in. They try to not acknowledge it, but it's very obvious that we are. But of course, the far right blames the housing crisis on the migrants. There are too many migrants. They're all taking the houses.
It's so easy to do
even though
that.
Statistics show it's only 7% of them.
Wow.
Yeah, so but what our party, the SP, really tries to hammer down is that the narrative is always that we don't have enough money to build better social housing, to expand our social housing as we have it. We don't have money for better healthcare, for cheaper healthcare, for cheaper insurances, for state insurance. We don't have money for any of that. But as soon as Trump said, hey, spend more on on your military, then of course all the parties were in favor of that. So that's something we really try to hammer down on with SDSP. And locally, I know that in Hilversum, that goes with the housing problem that I mentioned. We have quite a sizable homeless population here. That is a problem. It's not nearly as bad as like New York or LA, but it's still for the Netherlands. It's quite sizable, and that's a large problem. We also see that a lot of the politics now is centered around the larger cities, and that the rest of the countryside, the periphery, I think it's called in English, is often left behind and not really looked at. Well, there's a lot of oppressed workers there as well, but we always try to, we all often say the Amsterdam elites who live in those nice fancy houses with the canals. That's not that's not me. That's not most of the people you would see. Most of the people you would speak to online, they do not live such fancy lives.
Right.
And we really have a large problem to deal with there. We have just large housing inequalities. I think that's the biggest one. Also in the migration system, we have it set up that we only have a few migration centers that migrants can really go to sign up for asylum. There's only like 3 or 4 in the entire country. And people then also always point at that and say, "Oh, look how awful! There's lines of people there." It's of course what the right was saying, and of course there's lines of people because they can't go anywhere else.
Right.
We always say that we don't have a migration issue; we have a placement issue. We can't place them anywhere. There really aren't that many migrants in the grand scheme of things. We have so much of the land that is in the Netherlands that's just either farmlands or that can be built on, or it is companies like BlackRock that hold so much just empty housing because it's good for speculation.
BlackRock owns housing in the Netherlands as well? I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my god.
Yeah, no, but it's the mic. Ooh. Hang on. Something's going. Okay, sorry.
You're good.
I had some black screen for a moment. I thought something was going wrong. No, but of course it's the migrants that are the issue, not like companies like BlackRock.
Wow. That's rough.
I think if I have the numbers right, there is enough housing. If you seize those empty houses that companies like BlackRock, also Dutch grants house owning corporations, they hold that just aren't lived in, there's probably like 300,000 people that could be housed in there, which is enough for the second largest city of the Netherlands to just pretty much all of them move to.
We have the exact same issue here. We have all these homeless people that they're like, we just don't have any place to put them. But then there's all these empty homes just sitting there. But they're worth more to companies like BlackRock or Zillow or like the big companies that own everything here. They're worth more empty than they are.
They like to just hold it, and then because the demand is so low compared to the ask for it, prices go up, and then they sell it again, but without people living in them for maybe tens of years.
Wow. Yeah. That's capitalism right there. Like that image is like such a perfect distillation of the system.
Yeah.
Man. All right. Well, that is the end of all the official questions that I had, but please, if there's anything that we missed that you wanted to touch back on or throw back out there, please do.
Yeah, I wrote a small closing message that I think sums up the message of this podcast. So the Dutch Empire shaped modern capitalism. It shaped the early United States. It left legacies of racial hierarchy, economic domination, global inequality that we still live with. Created a history that echoes through in the modern society, and still in Dutch politics, in multinational corporations, and through every system that puts profit above people. But it also produced voices of resistance. Produced brave people like Anton de Kom and Sneevliet. It birthed the Communist Party of the Netherlands. And that struggle did not end with them. We're carrying that on now. And we as communists, we inherit their history, but also the fight for a better future that is still being fought to this day. Future not just built on exploitation, but on solidarity. Not on empire, but on liberation. And we should, as communists, of course, look back on history as something that is awful, but also learn from it and get inspired by it, inspired by all the previous movements that have already existed, and learn and carry on their legacy. Because their fight is not over yet.
That's a beautiful closing statement. Thank you. I will link all of these, the resources that you sent me. This is so good. These different books, and there's a YouTube link, a video about Anton. I will put all of that in the show notes, as well as how my listeners can find Leanne online if that's something you want to do. She's a great follow. The TikToks are mostly in Dutch. I still find them interesting. I don't know what you're saying.
I know that usually for like if closed caption allow it, Dutch translates quite well to English.
Okay.
So if there are ways for you to arrange that, it's probably not that hard to follow along. I know from the memes that people always memes that Dutch is like uncannily close to English, that you can almost understand it when you read it. So maybe there's something to do with that.
I think the speech pattern is similar. Like, so you can almost just listen to like the inflection and understand what's going on.
Yeah, the speech pattern I think is very close to English, but vocabulary more to German. So it's a mix of that.
Everything's a mix, right? Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Leanne. I'm gonna hit stop, but stay on the line real quick.
Of course.
And thank everybody for listening. Cheers.